Boop, boop, boop.
Hey YouTube, what's up? We are the Super Bokeh Bros. I am Eli. This is Dylan, Hascall, and Matt. All of our Instagrams are down below, but this isn't about us. We are going to critique some photos that were sent to us via Instagram, and we've got a few that we were emailed that we will look at the end as well. So we are all photographers from the Indianapolis area, and we just wanted to start this collaborative project. So hopefully you dig the vibe. Let us know down in the comment section below which photo ends up being your favorite, and make sure you check out all these cool creatives, and the Instagrams are linked below in the description as well. So how this is going to work, guys, we're going to say ready, set, go, and then we're going to throw out a number between 1 and 5. After that, we're going to debate or discuss the photo in a constructive manner. None of us would probably call ourselves professionals, so take everything we say with a grain of salt. This is just for fun and to bring some exposure to some of these photographers. So let's get right into it, Dylan. Here's your first shot.
All right, so this shot is from Aaron Creates.
All right, so guys, we'll give it a 1 through 5.
Okay.
And ready, set, go.
I got 3.
All right, Dylan, what you got?
So I gave it a 5 because, I always love drone photography, and I love the color grade on this. And I'm a big Indy Skyline fan.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 4. I really like how we've got some cool tones on the right side, and they really bleed over into the warm. I'm guessing this is a sunrise photo. So I just like how the gradient kind of bleeds over to the warmer side. It's a really solid image to me, and I like the little bit of fog and haze surrounding the city.
Yeah, I give it a 4. I love the moodiness of it. Pretty good composition. I piggyback off of what Eli said in the sense of I love how the tones bleed from right to left or left to right, however you look at it. But yeah, pretty solid shot.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely an awesome, solid shot. In terms of drone stuff, I definitely have some drone experience. I like wide angle shots of the skyline. Our skyline is so tiny, it's super easy to get. The color toning on this is super awesome in terms of the orange and blue scene. The blue doesn't outdo the orange. It's very complementary, and I just gave it a 3 because in terms of skyline stuff, I've seen it a lot. I would like to see maybe just some more dynamic stuff, but it's a beautiful capture and the most pristine conditions you could probably get a sunrise. So it's one of those awesome one in a lifetime shots.
Good shot, off to a good start. Done. Here is your second image.
All right, the second image is from Michael. The reason I like this and the reason I picked this shot is I love the bokeh. And the story behind this shot, he focused on 2 habits, both of which revolved around nicotine, and I love the story behind this shot.
Ready, set, go. All right, we'll start with you, Matt, and we'll work down this way.
Okay, I'm putting another 3. I think this is, I didn't know there was a story behind this. I think maybe if I had read the whole story, that might give a little bit more. I like a good story with a photo. But the bokeh on this is so creamy and good. The subject matter, I'm not personally a huge fan of cigarettes, so that kind of detracts from my eye. But if it's a story about it or whatnot, or a personal, I think that's a win. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I rated it a 4. I would have rated it lower had Dylan not expanded on what it was about. Having been a former smoker for 17 years, it kind of resonates with me a little bit, so I can appreciate the creativity that went into it, and the bokeh in this is just insane. So yeah, the story and meaning behind it really bumped it up for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I went 3 as well. It's solid. I do like the gradient of the cool up top, warmer tones at the bottom. The only thing pulling me out of it slightly, and it's debatable. We've got some low res files here, but there's a little bit of a light streak up in the top left that works its way down to the middle. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I personally would have cleaned it up, but again, that's the only thing that's pulling me out just a little bit. But overall, I really like the bokeh. It's really crisp.
I chose a 3 as well. I really do like the bokeh in this, and I love all the different colors. I would like to see a little bit more differentiating in the colors, maybe a little bit more green. I don't know what kind of post-production was done in this, but Michael, I'm really glad you're loving that lens.
All right, done some cool stuff there. We're going to move into Hascall's 2 shots next. All right, Hascall, take it away.
Yeah, so this shot's by Braden. It was a series of photos, and this was the one that just kind of drew my eye just because it was an action shot, and that's something that I don't normally shoot, so I thought it'd be a good one to toss into the mix.
Ready, set, and go. I do like what's going on here. This is a type of photography I've never really done. I think it would be fun. I love the pose of the biker, the tree right behind him it's eating into it a little bit for me. So compositionally, I might have moved him a little bit left, or maybe tried to get him on a cleaner background. But if it's action, you can't really control stuff that much. So overall, I do like that you froze in motion. You can see a little bit of dust coming out behind the back tire.
I think the motion, I'm going to piggyback off the motion capture. I think that's a very crisp from what I can see. My really only complaints with this is the color profile. To my eye is a little flat. It's a lot of the same colors, a lot of the same repetitive colors. I think like if you're not trying to do it in camera, that's great. But if you're gonna be processing all that, you could go in and isolate some of those colors just to make different areas pop. We don't have the greatest resolution file of this, so I can't 100% see the crispiness. So as long as that subject is a lot crisp on that background, how this image isn't portraying it, I rated it a little bit harsh because of how it's being presented. But I think with those little few tweaks right there, this could instantly be a banger.
Yeah, I rated it a 3 just simply, like I said, because it's an action shot. It's not something that I do, nor is it something that I strive to do. I probably would have liked to have seen a more high-res photo just to kind of draw out some more detail. I mean, we all have our different processes. I like to draw out a little more clarity. I'm pretty fond of dark tones and shadows. I think this would be an awesome shot for that because you have the dirt and everything being kicked up. It'd be a great asset to kind of draw out in the image. But other than that, I mean, pretty solid shot for a 3. Could have been better. Could have been a little more detailed image as well.
So I rated it a 2. The reason I rated it a 2 was the colors are a little flat for my preference with action shots. I always try to make them a little bit more dynamic, a little bit sharper. But in terms of composition, the background is a little distracting. The tree going right through the subject, but then again, like Eli said, you can't always control that. Some things that I would change, not a whole lot. Maybe the angle slightly to make it a little bit more dramatic, but this is an overall great action shot.
All right, Hascall, we got your second shot up here.
Yeah, this is Indy's very own Alex right here. I remember commenting on this one that he probably went blind taking because we've all been there trying to get that crisp sun flare in our lens. So yeah.
All right, let's rate it, boys. And ready, set, go.
All right, so I'll start off. I rated this a 5 because I'm a sucker for the manhole smoke along with the lens flares. I love the color grading behind this, the orange with the desaturated blue. I know that's Alex's, tones.
I don't know. I don't have a lot here. I really like it. Like everybody said, I mean, this one's fairly easy to read. I mean, it's a really cool looking shot.
Yeah, for me, I gave it a 5. Mad respect to Alex. I know he's always out shooting, as all the rest of these guys here. But yeah, I mean, I think everything is just beautifully framed in the picture. I love how he caught the steam coming up to the right of the building. It just fits perfectly into the frame, so almost the entire image is filled with something, and then just a little bit of dead space at the top. And then Alex, of course, with his unique tone usage, the blues and the orange and a little bit of pinks. I'm a sucker for sun flares, and I have respect for anyone who has the patience to sit around the manhole for the proper amount of steam to snag a shot like that. So 5 for Alex on this one.
Yeah, I just gave it a 4 because nothing will ever be perfect, so I don't think I'll ever, unless it's like 1 and I don't think there'll be a lot of 5s.
Yeah,
but,
with you on that.
In terms of this is what you strive for. It's beautifully composed. The tones aren't overbearing. It's not super in your face. It's his style. So if you go into his gallery, you'll see a lot of the same stuff. It plays well with everything else. It fits. Technically, I'm not a huge photographer, but the rule of the thirds or whatnot, because it brings it in and it draws your eye perfectly. And I think of the orange and the blue from a color grading perspective. He really nailed it there. The blue, I love my blues, obviously. I'll desaturate them every once in a while, but I think the orange to blue ratio is perfect on this one. And the sun flare just is icing on the cake.
Yeah, awesome shot, Alex.
Alex, I can imagine your face when you knew this was a banger.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go into my couple shots. So this first one here is from Jason Weber, I believe. Pretty neat street shot. Let's rate it, boys. Ready, set, go.
4.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could give it a half, I would.
I'll jump in here. This one just struck me. It's really unique. You don't see a lot of top-down shadow shots. Myself personally, I usually take those at ground level or even lower, as low as possible to the ground. but I like how the shadows extend from above. It really feels, I don't know, a little bit mysterious, even though the subjects don't look real mysterious. Only thing I'd have done, and it's just personal preference, I would have probably just slid up the contrast just a little bit, but that's just because I like contrast images. But really awesome image, Jason.
I'm gonna go off that. I think this is a really cool image. I love the shadow play. When I'm up flying the drone sometimes off like a parking garage or something, I get to see these sometimes, and this is what I always have in my head for like how I would want it to play out. I never get it, but this is ideally how I would do it. I gave it a 3 just because I would like to see a little bit more colors like in it. The contrast, whatever. The one thing I absolutely love about the shadows, like with this, is you also get the angle of the perspective of like the parking sign. I think it's parking. Yeah, it's the parking sign. I think that's just a really cool little, just extra flair to it that you probably wouldn't normally get in one of those long shadows. That really gives you like that element of being above it. I mean, obviously you can see that you're above it, but it really makes you look like you're more floating above it rather than like posted up looking down on it.
Do you know if this was drone or handheld?
This was, I know Jason's got a YouTube channel. I'll link that below as well. I saw the vlog he made this in. It was off a rooftop. It was handheld camera shot. It wasn't a drone.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd give it a 4.5. Pushing a 5. I feel like for me, what would make it a 5 if there was a little more color, like draw out those yellows and those blues a little bit. But I'm just impressed at everything that's happening in this image, the timing that went into it, the angle of catching the parking and then the 3 subjects walking in. I mean, when I first looked at it, the first thing I saw was the shadows, and then of course that led to leading lines, which took you down to the actual subjects in the image. So yeah, I mean, this is like a contest worthy image. There's so many things online for sure, and it could definitely compete in the right categories. So 4.5 for me.
Yeah, so I also gave it a 4.5, and I'm nitpicking not to give it a 5. The only thing that I wish this image had was I wish it was either park or parking, the shadow play on that, and I wish the sign was straight. And I don't know what kind of post-production went into this in terms of straightening, but man, this could win a contest.
This is by Alex Marks. We got a little rally action shot here. So if you boys are ready, we'll give it a rating. Ready, set, go.
I just think I like a little bit of a faded, like, I don't like a true black look. I like that faded, brought up black a little bit. So this one definitely hits my eye on that. I'm a big sucker for blues and greens if I'm going for a more natural edit. And I think the way the blues of the windshield, the greens of the background, the neutral of the neutral color of the car, and then all the brown of the sand, it's frozen where it needs to be and the perfect amount of blurry where it needs to be. It's composed very well and a very good shot, and I love almost everything about it. And like I said, I'd probably be nitpicking on this one to really find a reason not to give it a 5, other than nothing's perfect. You could always improve somewhere.
Yeah, I gave it a 3. It's probably because I'm not, I haven't really done photography like this. I don't know if I would have shot it a little bit tighter, but then you ruin the feel of the turn. So it's probably just, I'm not an expert in this field, so I'm really not one to critique this heavily, but I really agree. I like the editing. I like the look on this. It's got those like desaturated brown, green tones. It feels really cool.
All right, so I gave this a 4 because I love this action shot. I love the composition, and I love the feel of the shot. The only thing I would have changed is maybe a little bit of a vignette to add a little bit of drama to it, make it a little bit more cinematic. But yeah, this is a great shot, Alex.
Yeah, I gave this one a 4, and I mean, I'm a sucker for texture and shadows, and I feel like there's so much to work with in this shot in terms of drawing out the textures of the dirt, kind of intensifying the shadows in the dirt cloud. I feel like that would kind of play into that vignette a little bit, increasing the mood a little bit more. But other than that, my first glance to it was like, what commercial did you steal this from, or what magazine? This is like a legit action shot. So yeah, I mean, the only thing for me keeping it from being a 4.5 or a 5 is I would have loved to have drawn out a little more tones in the dirt and the shadows a little bit more. But great composition in terms of the coloring, like Matt said, with the greens and the blues.
All right, we're gonna jump into Matt's shot. So what do we got here?
This is from the account McAllister's Deli, not to be confused with McAllister's Deli, which I've seen on his story happens quite often, which is kind of funny.
Ready, set, go.
I gave this a 3. This is probably, out of all the ones we reviewed, one that's closest to my personal color scheme. That might have been why it was submitted to me. This to me kind of looks like it was edited either maybe like on mobile or something, or where the image wasn't maybe shot raw. So that's where I would like to see some improvements on it. I would like to see the filter or whatever color grading that was used not necessarily be applied to the whole entire thing, and like I would like to more separation on the buildings and the background, because it really just kind of looks like a washed out sky with the skyline, which is pretty. And I would maybe move it to the left a little bit so that way that center line was framed a little bit more center. I do love the 3 lines running through it. I think that makes a cool part of it. I think it could just be utilized a little bit better.
Being a follower of Matt's work as a friend, I dig the tones of this image a lot. Just piggybacking off of the quality of the image, it kind of, I mean, it's just all going to be speculation, but kind of looks like a mobile shot, maybe passing through on the interstate. I love to snap those when I can. But there's plenty of work that could have been done with it, just like Matt said. I personally would have liked to have seen it a little more exposure on it, brightened up a little bit, kind of draw out those tones a little more. The contrast would be fitting as it is now if it was a little bit brighter. The play with the power lines feeding through, it's a nice little subtle touch, depending on your preference and how you choose to look at it. But it's a unique perspective of our city, and yeah, I just think a little bit of brightness to it, clean it up a little bit, give a little more color pop to it would have been good.
It's one of my favorite views of the city coming in. I come that way and like to the city a lot, as I love that view of it.
Yeah, that's neat. I gave it a 3. I don't have a lot to critique on it. The editing style, the tones, like those guys said, that doesn't bother me at all. I like this. I don't know, I might be on a little bit different side of the spectrum with the power lines running through it. I do like the bit of depth it adds, but I don't know if it's just, it might be distracting me a little bit and pulling my eyes off kind of the left a little bit, where I think what you're trying to get is the center of the building. I actually dig this edit. I like this color scheme.
So I gave it a 2. I do love the composition. I, however, love the power lines.
Okay.
I love the little break in the layers of the image. What I would have changed about this is possibly a bracketed exposure, if that was possible. But I would have loved to see the contrast and the different layers of the city mixed with the different colors of the sky.
Okay, and this actually is from a new account to me that reached out. It's not a local one. It's a wife and husband that travel around together. So I think that's pretty cool, just like from an account-related issue. But let's give it a rating.
Ready, set, go. I'm going 4. I don't do much I don't want to call this nature. I don't do much stuff of this style, but I think what grabbed me here is the amount of contrast. I dig the really crushed shadow look, and to me it really makes the ocean and all the blue tones in the ocean and the red sun flare, it makes that really pop just because the blacks are really crushed.
I think it's a really cool frame in terms of composition. I don't shoot a whole lot of landscape. Most of my stuff, probably 90%, if not 95%, is portrait. So I don't think I would have naturally, I might have seen this, but I don't think I would have had anything lighter. If I would have switched to it, I would not worth it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very glad they took it. I think it's a very cool picture. I love orange. It doesn't come into my style much anymore, but it always complemented blue well, so it was always a color I loved. I just loved how the orange, the spectrum of oranges in this. It's very much a very orange photo, but you get the full range. And it doesn't blow out the shadows. I'm someone that hasn't played around with that style a lot, so if this was me, I'd probably just raise those shadows and it would totally ruin this composition. It makes it here.
I gave it a 4 simply just because it makes me think of one of those images that people use as a background with some sort of inspirational quote on it or something.
But those are very commercially useful. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is a really awesome shot. I think they did a great job in the post-processing and allowing that foreground to still stay present, but it's subtle enough to just notice it and to realize and kind of gauge a little bit of depth. Great composition. I love the sun flares, another one of those. Shout outs to you for taking that shot, and I can only imagine how blind you were when you were done trying to line that up.
We're gonna have 2 blind photographers already after this critique.
Yeah, all their feet stop at that image.
Yeah, so I gave it a 3. I would have rated it higher had it not been for that. I believe it's a person. If it hadn't been for that person, and maybe if the foreground was even a little bit darker. I'm on the opposite end of you, Hascall. I would love to see that foreground almost completely black. That way it's just a straight up frame from, I thought this was a dinosaur at first, and I thought it was photoshopped. So this is a great frame. I do love the scene behind. It's just very, very interesting, and I would love to know where you took this photo.
Yeah, if you're here, let us know in the comment section below. Where was
Great
this
capture.
taken? Yeah, cool stuff.
All right, so this is Indy Skyline. I don't think this was actually here. No, there's no way that's here. It's not our skyline. Maybe Chicago. Or
It looks like
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah, it looks like Chicago. But let's give it a rating, boys.
Ready, set, go.
Actually, I'm gonna give that one a 4.
As you guys already know by this critique, and if you've seen my Instagram, I do like these heavy contrasted images where you expose for the highlights and let the shadows just disappear. It really pops out to me. I like the bird up in the top. It's a little bit of detail. Really great image overall. Chicago skyline's beautiful, and I really like the way you captured it.
Was that bird photoshopped?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
It looks very, I mean, I'm guessing real, but
We have to know. That's so framed perfectly.
If I had to guess, I'm gonna say that's in camera.
I wonder how many frames they shot.
Continuous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback off this. I think the skyline is beautiful. I love the colors where the colors are at. Like in the sky, they play together very, very nice. Not blown out, not too desaturated, and I'm really gonna have to start playing around with like a silhouette, like foreground. I think that's something, a style that might really be fun. I'm starting to see through this, and I think this stuff is really cool to see.
I'm gonna say 4.5. Simply because I know my experience with doing a silhouette shot like that with a sunset, I typically oversaturate on the back end post processing. I get a little obsessed with the tones, but this is a really clean composition of color that was put together. It's 4.5 because I'm unsure about the bird, but it's a very clean silhouette. It's perfectly framed. Everything is just beautifully symmetrical throughout the image. Not too much dead space on top or bottom. It's just solid shot.
Yeah, so I gave this a 3 only because I wish it would have been bracketed. I love to see the buildings crisp and in focus, exposed correctly. But in terms of a silhouette shot, this is very, very, very good. And I love the tones in the sky. I love the clouds, and I love the composition in terms of, centering that main building.
All right, our last shot is from Carlos. His Instagram is Oblivion Shots. This is of Indy. So let's rate our last image of the critique. Ready, set, go.
I'm giving it a 4.
I'm 4.5 on this.
4.5.
Solid 4.
I think this is really dope. This one, I am terrified of shooting at this time of day. Like, everything about this photo gives me anxiety because of horribly harsh light. And the top left of it is a little bit blown out, but that's almost impossible in this scenario. What I love is the reverse bokeh. I love the puddle bokeh. I have not seen very much of it. And I love this is a great, just like candid street moment, and just like broad daylight. So
yeah, great stuff. I'm at like 4.5. This is like, to me, this is like a city landscape, so it doesn't have a distinct subject, but it doesn't matter because it's really showing me, what the entire scene looked like, felt like. We already know we're like these bokeh lovers, so that looks incredible. But I love the editing and color grade on this. Carlos, you do a really good job. I've seen a lot of your other work. Your color grading is magnificent. I really like the way that brick building pops out of this one. It looks really
it's like almost like cinematic reel.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's I would describe it. It's very poppy but cinematic.
Yep.
So Carlos, I actually changed my rating. This is a 5. I love the puddle bokeh, and I love the lines going through the image from right to left. And I love the depth. Like Eli said, there's no specific subject, but there doesn't need to be. It's a city landscape.
Yeah, I gave it a 4. I want to jump to a 4.5. It's like madness in my mind trying to decide where to land. Because, you took a very basic kind of blah part of the city and you made it into something with the reverse bokeh effect going on. I'm also a sucker for puddle shots. If you roll through my feed, puddles, depth, anything, just scroll through my feed. You'll see plenty of that. But I'm really impressed at the shot given the time of day. I love the street direction you shot it in because you see kind of that reflection from the windows hitting the red brick building. I mean, you took something very simple and you made it into something visually appealing, but it's just a very basic part of our downtown street. So I applaud you. Also, was that shot with the ND filter? Let us know because it looks like it.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Those are very ideal to use in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
That was a really awesome way to wrap up the critique. So I think we're all pretty happy with the way that went. I want you to let us know down below. Are there any of the critiques that you completely disagree with on us? What photos stood out to you from this critique? And are there any photographers that you are for sure going to go follow? Make sure you check them all out. Drop a follow. And until next time, guys, this has been the Super Bokeh Bros with critique number 1.
Boop, 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 boop.
That one.
Do, 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 do.